Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable business brokers from across the country. The great resignation is in the news everywhere, and people are talking about leaving their corporate jobs and going off and working for themselves, looking into buying an existing business perhaps. So my guest on this segment is Hedin Daubenspeck. He's the founder of Winning Hand Corporation out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hedin, welcome to the program.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hedin, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically, who are the types of folks that you work with?
Mark, I work with business owners that are ready to retire or sell their company. Sometimes it's to get liquidity into their estate. Many of my owners have operated a company 25 or 30 years, and they reach a point where they're ready to pass it on to the next generation.
And for folks, you've heard the great resignation in the news. Have you actually seen people leaving the Dilbert Cube and looking for a business to operate on their own? What have you heard out there? Has you seen a spike in interest in buying businesses?
Well, I've had a few inquiries from people who are wanting to buy a small business. Most of my clients are in multi-million-dollar corporations, and it takes quite a bit of capital to purchase those types of companies. I know that with COVID, we've had some companies forced to liquidate. We've had some prosper very well. So I'm seeing a mixed group.
Gotcha. So, yeah, to your point, businesses that are sort of forced to liquidate, do they reach out to you as well and say, hey, I need to sell this business? Or what other kind of conversations has this pandemic brought out in your industry?
Well, I know that I'm doing more business with auctioneers and appraisers, equipment appraisers, especially in the construction area. If we just don't have a business to sell because the company's lost all their customers, then mostly they're kind of down to an auction to sell their equipment at used equipment value.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, for folks that have been trying to get into business and leaving their corporate jobs, what are the kind of questions they ask you? Because this may be the first time I imagine that they're looking to buy a business, so they probably don't even know what to ask. So what are the most common questions you get from them?
Well, your typical small company buyer is going to be looking at a company that they can manage themselves. Um, Typically at that level, they're not looking for professional staff. They're looking for something they can own and operate themselves. So they're looking for something that's in retail or something that they can get into. And oftentimes it's in a service business.
Do they already know what they're looking for? Do they actually say, hey, I want to have a restaurant, or I want to get into a pet business? Or are they kind of looking for guidance?
Well,
What is the mix?
they're really looking for guidance to see what's available and what I might have to offer.
Would you say that, in light of the pandemic that seems to never end, that we're on the tail end of here, supposedly, do you feel it's still a good time to get into business for yourself? Are there opportunities now, or is it dangerous?
Well, I think there were probably more startups in 2020 and 2021 than there were in the previous years. So many people were forced to to leave their job, and they took their 401k money and they decided to get in business for themselves. You know, um, my market, Tulsa, Oklahoma, is a great market for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of startups, companies all the time, and with a young business owner, a startup company, they got to worry about working capital. They've got to worry about time management. They've got to worry about watching their overhead. And usually in my consulting part of my practice, I give those types of owners that kind of advice.
Are there any big like myths or misconceptions out there in regards to like buying or selling a business? What are some of the big misconceptions you might hear?
Well, The thing that I experience most often is owners undervalue their company. And so working with a professional business broker like myself, I'm a CPA also. So the business valuation is an important part of my work. And I tell my owners that you probably have more assets that are not on the books than you have that are on the books. So it's good to get me involved early so we can start looking at the value of your company.
That's really fascinating insight because you see when you watch things like Shark Tank, people like way overinflate the value of their businesses, but it's interesting to know that there are some realistic people that undervalue it as well. So,
Well, these people have been operating in a company for 30 years and they're involved in the day-to-day operations and they see what's on the books every day, but they forget about, hey, I've got goodwill and hey, I've got a customer base and hey, I've got a dealer relationship. There are other assets that are intangible that are not on the books.
yeah, that customer base and that network, I'd say, is priceless for sure. So,
I
so
know that in my work, my job is to bring a qualified buyer to the owner with an acceptable offer. And last year I did over 10 million like that.
Hedin, so tell us, like, what inspired you to get into this field of helping people sell their businesses and helping buyers buy businesses? You mentioned your background as a CPA. Take us back a little bit, and how'd you get inspired and how'd you get started in this business brokerage?
Well, I'm a CPA and I was in public practice. And I reached a point where a lot of my clients were getting older and they're wanting to retire and they were trying to sell their company. And I started teaching seminars at the hotels to business owners on how do you sell a business. And then COVID came along. Well, I could no longer teach my seminars. And I thought, well, I might as well do it myself. I've helped clients for over and over for many years. I'll just do it myself. And so I started the Winning Hand Corporation to help make those negotiations myself.
Fantastic. And before asking my last question, for somebody that's considering selling their business, what should they look for? What are the most important things they should consider when choosing a business broker to work with?
Well, it's interesting. Some of my clients have chosen me because they wanted a small niche firm where they could get the personal expertise of the owner. I have the 50 years experience. They want to work with me. They don't want to work with junior staff. So they pick a smaller firm where they get my personal attention.
Great point. So, Hedin, for folks on the call here that could use your help, and then maybe they want to sell a business, or maybe they're looking for guidance in buying a business, how could they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Well, my website is winninghandcorp.com. My number is 918-760-3150. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My name is Hedin Daubenspeck. If you Google my website or my name, you're going to find plenty of listings for me.
This has been absolutely terrific. Hedin, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Mark, thank you very much.
That was Hedin Daubenspeck. He's the founder of Winning Hand Corporation. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, to grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.